'tis the season. Now, I know some people hear those three words and get a distinct craving to blow their own brains out, but I promise you, this game will soothe those cravings by the wonderful means of clicking stuff in their big ugly face. We are of course speaking of Killing Floor. Though I'm guessing you already figured that one out when you decided to click on this video, but I digress. Developed by the at times controversial but still really quite good Tripwire Studios, Killing Floor is a wave-based co-op FPS set in a post-apocalyptic Britain, though you might not have noticed it. The game takes you around a series of different locales, offers you a series of different guns, and presents you with a series of different things to shoot. Killing Floor's core gameplay loop is really quite simple. The game spawns a certain number of enemies, you shoot them ideally in the head and get dodged from doing so. When you're done, the trader opens and you can go shopping for new lovely toys. Repeat. What makes this game click is just how fine-tuned the shooting is. Let me show you. Check out how the shotgun feels. You see what I mean? This carries over to a lot, if not most of the other weapons. Pressing mouse 1 is an absolute pleasure in this game. Killing Floor features a number of different perks, classes basically. There are 7 of them and all of the weapon types are spread between them to give a better sense of variety depending on what you choose at the beginning of the map. We'll go through each one and talk a bit about what types of weapon they use, the bonuses they get, and how grindy they are to level. Also, some of the perks have bonuses surrounding mechanics we've not yet mentioned, so I'll explain them as we go. Alright, let's get to it then. The Field Medic takes an interesting approach to the heal slot formula displayed in other team-based games. You don't really have a healing beam or anything like that, no, instead opting for a mix of really satisfying SMGs and some made-up stuff such as this bullpup assault rifle, though the former being a lot more fun to shoot. The way medics heal in this game is by either whipping up the med syringe and running after your mates trying to sting them with it, tossing down a grenade that heals everyone that stands in the weird green stuff, and last but definitely not least, using your perk weapon's alt fire. What that does is it shoots a dart and it'll heal the person it hits. Though rather simple, this is really quite clever because it incorporates the aspect of having good aim equals you do good into the healing side of things as well as the killing. I should also mention that it's not just the medics that have the healing syringe, every class gets it and can heal themselves and their allies, the latter being a lot more effective. However, the medic has a much faster recharge time on it, making it a great deal more viable for frequent use. Medics also initially get discounts on body armor, improved movement speed, and a few damage resistances. On level 5 they spawn with armor, and on the last level, 6, they spawn with an MP7. The way you level medic is quite simple, it just requires you to heal X amount on teammates. The earlier levels requiring only 200 points and the last level requiring 100,000. Medic doesn't feel all that grindy since you'll be leveling it as you play as other classes too, not just when you're playing medic. In other words, it counts any healing you do, which is something you ideally be doing lots of in every class you play as. Support Specialist is a shotgun lad with the tools for the job, and what great fantastic tools they are. The perk offers a variety of everything shotgun, from pump action to double barrel to a semi-automatic and fully automatic. It also includes some weird side stuff like a nail gun and this bullpup semi-auto shotgun that allows you to choose your shot spread. On top of dealing a lot of damage, this perk also specializes in welding doors. You see, you can weld most if not all of the doors in this game to keep up the baddies. This gives the door essentially a health bar and the support is usually the one tasked with maintaining it, although it can be a rather boring task. Supports at first get a lot of benefits around grenade damage and capacity, shot penetration rates, ammo, weight limit and welding speed. Later levels have you start the game with the pump action shotty and the final level starts you off with the double barrel. To level this perk is, well, to be entirely honest, it's not very fun. They require you to both do a certain amount of damage with shotguns and get a certain amount of welding points, while the former is a rather easy task because of the latter is incredibly, incomprehensibly, irredeemably dull. Even in early levels, they already task you to weld 2000 points. That, however, looks like child's play in light of level 6 370,000 welding points. It just ain't fun. Next up we have my favorite perk in the game, Sharpshooter. This one has you use a lot of designated marksman rifles and dual wielding handguns. Yeah, one in each hand. The DMRs go from old lever action rifles, an M14 with a laser pointer attached and a big fuck off Barrett 50 cal. The handguns start at the regular Beretta that every perk starts with but benefits this one the most, that includes a revolver, a deagle and an USP. All of which can be dual wielded of course. Not included in our little list thus far is the crossbow. Although it sounds a bit underwhelming, this weapon is great for using alongside a set of pistols for its capacity to deal with the larger boys really well. Sharpshooter is an entirely damage focused perk, so all of its benefits are surrounding bonuses to reload speed, fire rate, headshot damage, and better recoil. When you hit level 5, you spawn with a lever action, and on level 6 with a crossbow. This is arguably the easiest perk to level, requiring you only to get headshots with perk related weapons to advance. Initially asking for only 30 headshots, and on the final level 8500. Although it may sound like a lot, it really isn't considering how much stuff you kill every wave. Next on the list we have the perk that thinks of the little guys, Commando. Having their weapon of choice be assault rifles makes them perfect for dealing with smaller foes. In other words, crowd control. Their choices in assault rifles range from the infamous British bullpup to the reliable AK-47 and M4, the modern SCAR, and the not so modern FN-FAL and STG-44. Along with getting boosts to their assault rifle, commandos also get a health bar on top of enemies, and they're able to see foes that would otherwise be invisible. These are called stalkers, but we'll talk a bit more about them later. Commandos are also able to extend Z time. What is Z time, I hear you ask, oh ever so collaborative viewer? Well, this happens at random, but a few perks, Commando being one of them, are able to extend the duration of this by simply mowing down everything in their path. On level 5 you spawn with a bullpup, and on the final level with an AK. This is a middle of the road perk to level in terms of difficulty. All you need is to do a lot of damage and kill a lot of stalkers, those invisible things I mentioned earlier. On the first level being only 25,000 damage with 30 stalkers, and on the final level being 5,500,000 damage and 3,600 stalkers. On to the next perk, Berserker. He's the melee weapons lad, specializing in everything that doesn't make use of a trigger. His weapon choices begin with a knife that, much like the Sharpshooter's 9mm, every perk has, but this one uses it best. Then it goes on to a machete, a fire axe, Nippon steel, superior steel, and well, it wouldn't be a zombie game without a bloody chainsaw now, would it? A lot of the bonuses Berserkers get are related to tanking. Not the slow, sluggish tanking, however. They get some really big boosts to their movement speed, making them the fastest perk in the game. Much like the Commando, Berserks can also extend Z time by slaughtering everything in their path once it activates. They're also invulnerable to the abilities foes called Claws have, which is grabbing you. Again, more on them later. This is another easy perk to level. All they require is flat melee damage, 25,000 at first and 5.5 million on the last level. On level 5 they start the game with a machete, and on 6 with the fire axe and some armor. Next up we have the Firebug. You know the Pyro from TF2? Yeah, it's that guy. Fuck, there's even a Pyro skin. Needless to say, they specialize in everything that sets the enemy on fire. The flamethrower being the main meat of the perk. The other weapons available to them are a MAC-10 with incendiary rounds and a trench gun, a shotgun with incendiary pellets. Although they certainly lack in weapon variety, the Firebug makes up for it by having a very focused purpose, setting things on fire of course. All of their bonuses are towards this, and they, much like the Commando, are great for thinning out the smaller foes. On top of that though, the Firebug can also make the larger enemies panic by, you guessed it, setting them on fire. This can buy your team some precious seconds to get ready to deal with the coming threat. Along with bonuses to everything fire, the Firebug also gets fire resistance, even reaching 100% resistance in the later levels. From level 3 onwards they get fire grenades. And on level 5 they start the game with a flamethrower, and on level 6 they also start with some armor. Firebugs are pretty simple to level, or you just need to do fire damage, 25,000 at first and 5.5 million on the last level. And last but not least, the Demolitions Expert, or Demo for short. Using everything in their power to jib the enemy, demos have an array of things that either go boom or launch things that go boom. From proximity-based pipe bombs to a variety of grenade launchers such as the M79, the M32 and an M4 with a mounted grenade launcher. It ends the perk weapons in style with a light anti-tank weapon. The bonuses this perk gets are a given. Everything that goes boom does more damage, even the regular grenades that every perk has. They're also able to carry around more grenades. On the 5th level they spawn with 2 pipe bombs, and on the 6th with an M79. The demo is a relatively simple perk to level up, requiring you only to do explosion damage, though it does involve a high risk factor. You can and likely will blow yourself to a myriad of tiny pieces due to the ever-present splash damage from your arsenal. Having a nice variety of perks and weapons is good and all, but what about the things you use them on? You know, these things. Well, they're called Zeds, though even the protagonists call them zombies at times. They're the classic failed experiments for super soldiers, yada yada. We'll cover the actual story later on though. For now, let's go through the Zeds and talk a bit about each one. Beginning with the Clot. They're weak and slow, but usually make up for it in numbers. While pretty easy to dispose of, the Clots do have a trick up their sleeve. They're able to grab hold of you, snaring you basically. While on the easier difficulties, as in hard or lower, you can break free by jumping in their opposite direction. On higher difficulties, your only option is to kill them. Next up, we have the Gorefast. Having a tendency of living up to their name, the Gorefast is, at a distance, quite manageable, only turning into a real threat once they get close to you. If you allow that, they'll start to charge you, swinging around that nasty blade of his. The Gorefast is a very straightforward Zed, however he can still prove to be quite deadly if he manages to sneak up on you, as his attacks take away a big chunk of your health. The Crawler. These swords are arguably the most annoying enemies in the game. Although bearing the lowest health out of all of the Zeds, the Crawlers are extremely agile, and they have a tendency of being a crawling, hopping reminder that the hitboxes in this game could be a lot better. The Bloat, because every godforsaken zombie game needs a boomer. Though this one, on top of blinding you, does a buttload of damage too. And they have this nasty cleaver that he uses once his belly is empty. The Bloats are big, tall bastards who are extremely tanky, so you're left with little other options other than just nailing his head in. It doesn't help that if you kill him with a body shot, he explodes in a rain of acid. The Stalker. This is the sneaky one. Having the ability to camouflage herself and only decloak when she's in your face. She's very weak though. Many times you kill one without even meaning to, just because she got caught in crossfire. Although her camouflage is very efficient, you can spot her if you really look for it, either by her faded outline or by her faint shadows. You can also hear her coming, that is if you've not gone deaf from all the gunshots around you. The Husk. This one really makes you work on that sidestepping happy feet business. The Husks come equipped with a fireball launcher of sorts and are one of the few ranged Zeds. Though they're pretty precise, you can still fake them out by pretending to go one way and then changing your direction. Doing this always feels really satisfying. The Siren. Now this one is a real nuisance. She walks slowly towards you, and just when she's close enough, the mad lass starts to fucking scream her lungs out. This is so powerful that not only does it blow your eardrums out, it also disables any projectiles launched around her, so grenades, all of that stuff. The Scrake. Now we're getting to the big boys, and yes, that is a bloody chainsaw on his arm. This one is kinda similar to the Gorefast, just, you know, does a job a great deal faster. Unlike the Gorefast, who charges once he's close, the Scrake will remain slow walking till you damage him enough. Then he'll start his charge and only be stopped once you deal with him. The Fleshbound, the most powerful Zed in the game. This one will give you the slow walk special, much like the Scrake. However, he has a timer. Think of it as his patience. Once he sees you, it'll start ticking down. After 10 to 15 seconds, his patience runs out and the light here turns to red. He roars and darts towards the nearest boy he can find to turn them into a pulp. After getting a bit of rage out of his system, the Fleshbound's light goes back to yellow and he calms down again. Oh, and his patience will run out if you shoot him enough, obviously. And last but not fucking least, the Patriarch. The boss of Killing Floor. You can kind of guess it from his name, but basically all of the previously mentioned Zeds were his children, and you know, you've been slaughtering quite a few of them every wave. Naturally, this one is quite pissed, and he has the tools to show for it. He has a minigun, a rocket launcher, a cloaking device, healing syringes, the ability to call upon his children for aid, also this weird ass tentacle on his chest. He's a really well equipped and dynamic boss that never fails to pose a challenge. And perhaps most important of all, he has quite good banter.
I don't think you fully understand the situation. You're all going to die.
I've touched on this when we were talking about Clots, but I feel this deserves a bit more attention. Difficulty. Killing Floor is very hard. Even on normal, a careless player will still die due to a poor decision on his part. The game has 5 difficulties: easy, normal, hard, suicidal, and finally Hell on Earth. Hell on Earth was added after the game released, and you can tell, sometimes the game doesn't feel like it's designed to let you beat this difficulty. And that's great. The higher the difficulty, the less DOS you earn too, so it forces you to min-max your build, creating another difficulty barrier for people trying to get into the upper difficulties, as newer players will likely be lost as to what to buy with what little money they get per wave. That's never that big of an issue though, as newer players have a decency to get straight up kicked from Suicidal and Hell on Earth servers due to insufficient perk levels. Usually they ask you to play a perk that's level 4 or higher. The difficulty also increases the more people you have playing with you, so 6-man Hell on Earth is basically as hard as it gets. I'm fairly sure it's hard enough, however. Let's talk a bit about maps. The game launched with 6 of them, and although it has a lot more now, like a lot, these 6 are still the most popular, and they're all quite good really. While maps like Biotic's Lab and Offices encourage a more sit comfortably and camp playstyle, maps like Farm or West London are a lot more open, especially the former one. They all have this distinctively dirty aesthetic, unkept and unclean, devastated and overrun. The maps are pretty big too, so whenever you're almost done with a wave, make sure you're close to the trader, otherwise you'll be spending the following wave collecting scraps and dulling your knife. This game does have a story, though since it's a multiplayer focused game it refrains from shoving it in your face. The basic gist of it is that Kevin, or as we've previously referred to him as, the Patriarch, was the CEO of a gene therapy company called Holzine. They were hired by our ever-gracious queen to create a gene-enhanced clone army. Naturally, Kevin started going slowly mad, and as all good army programs, it had to be shut down. Kevin didn't really like this decision, however, seeing as it was in the calling your creations your children part of the mad scientist downward spiral. So as all good mad scientists do, he decided to enhance himself as best he could and release his children on the meanies who opposed them, even his wife. With their previous CEO taking an indefinite sick leave, Holzine decided they might as well try to clean up their mess. So they started paying and supplying various civilian militia that were already fighting the Horde alongside government branches such as the British Special Forces. Though the main story itself can be dismissed as generic, the game does have some nice flavor text on all of the maps, characters and even the Zeds. For example, the Siren was a clone of the Patriarch's wife, and once she divorced him due to the whole going a tad bit mad thing, he had a Siren killer cause, you know, he was having an extremely normal one. Another cool bit of flavor this game has is when a Zed's all alone, they'll actually start talking to themselves. This can be at times funny, creepy, and at others just straight up disturbing.
It needs more salt.
Come on, give us a kiss. Everything's black. Everything.
Don't worry though, this is made a great deal less disturbing by the soundtrack. Good lords, this game has a good soundtrack. It's a mix of industrial and a bit of new metal sprinkled in. Yes, I know that word scares the boomers away, but it's all instrumental, so don't worry. Here, have a listen. The soundtrack feels dirty and unclean and complements the general aesthetic this game has going for it. Again, it's really quite good. The voice acting is also another thing to write home about. Some really well voiced British banter that just sticks with you.
Time for a car boot sale, I feel. Outside, shit for brains. My granny shoots better than you, you prat. Call yourself a bloody zombie? Soft as shite. You're all fur coat and no knickers, bitches. Give us a few quid, governor. Please tell me that's not a chainsaw he's carrying. Both barrels for you, you bastards. Money, money, money.
In fact, if you've played this game before, I bet that once you read this video title thingy, you could actually hear it. Graphics wise, this game isn't exactly what I would call impressive by any means, but as I've mentioned, the aesthetic is quite good. The game runs on an Unreal 2 engine, which was already way outdated even when the game released, and you can definitely tell. They really do nail the weapons animations though, I feel like I can't stress that enough. But the other animations such as the Zeds or other players aren't really good. It doesn't help that due to engine limitations they had to stiffen the animation work a bit so they could better track the head hitbox. This game does have a bit of a DLC issue though. I refrain from touching on anything DLC to this point because I personally am not a fan of set practice, but there were a few weapons, such as the Firebug's flare gun, that are an objective improvement to this overall kit and only available to those who pay up. On top of the weapon packs, the game also have player character packs and weapon skins, which aren't as harmful as the former so they can easily be ignored. Killing Floor is what can only be described as budget perfection. Yes, the enemy's animation look quite bad due to engine limitations, but have you tried unloading a mag into one of them? Yes, some of the melee weapons look quite janky, but mate, have you tried the shotgun? Yes, the game is a bit grindy, but have you paid attention to your weapon's detailed animation when Z time is on? Although at the time it was released, Killing Floor was pretty bare bones due to its extremely small dev team and short dev cycle, the game as it is now is just fantastic. All of the game's simple systems complement one another, and with the help of the unforgiving difficulty, it makes for a really enjoyable package that you can play for hundreds of hours. And even though many people moved on to the second game, it still holds a small but loyal fan base, so you should still be able to find a couple servers to sink a couple of hours into. Thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate you getting this far, and I hope you have a nice day.